I just want to start with a few thank yous. This is my first report, and I've had a lot of support in producing it. So thank you to Fabian from the European Cyclist Federation for providing a lot of assistance, for Oliver from the Secretariat, and from Aliona from the group, who've all been great. Thanks also to everybody who's contributed. So we had an initial stakeholder engagement session, and I think we had about 40 people representing national governments, regional governments, the cycling industry and NGOs, lots and lots of different groups. And it was really, really positive. And lots of people here as well who have inputted throughout the process. So I just want to start by making very, very, very clear that this is entirely in line with the principle of subsidiarity. I know this is something that a lot of people care about. Cycling policies are for member states to decide, and of course are implemented by us in cities and regions. But we as local and regional authorities are of course principal players in urban mobility, and I think it's important that the EU can, to note that the EU can and does take an active role in promoting cycling through providing adequate funding, through setting ambitious targets, improving road safety, encouraging multimodality and connectivity, and connecting and harmonizing data, and ensuring that there's proper coordination across the Commission, all the different Commission departments in terms of policies that affect cycling. So what this is about is added value. What added value is there at the EU level that we can bring about in order to support us to better do our jobs as local and regional politicians? I'm not going to go through in detail the benefits, but in economic and social terms, cycling has enormous potential for positive impacts on jobs, on transport, mobility, health, the environment, and climate change. You can read a lot more about these in the report that was produced by the European Parliament Research Service at our request in advance of producing this opinion, and thank you to Markata who produced that. It's called Moving Cycling Forward. I think it was distributed to everybody, but you can certainly find it on the European Parliament's website, and it lists in great detail, and I think it's a really, really good report to make the case at a local level, the real benefits and added value of action on this. So I'm just going to go through briefly the key things that we're calling for to be included in this roadmap. And I think it's quite ambitious, and I think it needs to be. I think that's important, and I hope people will agree and support it. So firstly, we're calling for a target of an EU-wide target of doubling cycling across the EU, not for individual cities or authorities or member states, not interfering with any existing national or local targets, and I know many have them. Many of you have been telling me about that. We have our own ambitious target to double cycling in my city. 10 member states, 15 capital cities all have their own national and local targets, many of which actually go much further than doubling and call for much higher increases. Achieving this target of doubling cycling, according to the report I just mentioned, would create about 350,000 jobs across the EU in the cycling industry, in tourism, and other related sectors, and contribute tens of billions of euros to our local economies. So there's a really, really strong case for this. And in terms of just cycling investment generally, the average cost-benefit ratio is about 5 to 1. That's a very conservative estimate. It really goes up to about 13 to 1. So doubling cycling, really, really important target. Second is establishing and making very, very clear the sustainable travel hierarchy, which is that pedestrians and cycling are at the top of that, very closely followed by public transport and other modes further down. I think it's important that we state that, and I know that's recognised in many states anyway. I think it's just important that we reiterate it. Ring fencing some EU transport funding. So at the moment, there's a bit over €1 billion being spent in the current budget period on cycling. It's about 1.5% of the transport budget. What we're saying is we'd like to see ring fenced 10% of the transport budget. It's not a huge amount, but it would make a huge difference. And as I mentioned, there is a really, really high cost-benefit ratio for investment in cycling infrastructure. Having at European level some guidelines that national and local authorities can use, particularly for infrastructure and improving safety, and especially where co-financed by the EU. It's really important that we have best value for taxpayers' money when the EU is spending money on these projects. I know that a lot of people, we talk a lot about cross-border issues, and so we've made specific reference to cross-border transport and the inclusion of Eurovelo, the long-distance cycling route network, to be included in the TEN-T, Trans-European Transport Network. We've also made a number of other suggestions around road safety, and of course that's a shared competence at the EU level as well. So just finally, we don't have an opinion on this before. We've mentioned sustainable transport in other opinions. My colleague from Birmingham, a very good opinion on urban mobility a couple of years ago, but we've never had a specific opinion on this, and we're playing catch-up. Transport ministers back in 2015 made clear their desire for a roadmap and called on the Commission to produce that. The European Parliament has been very supportive of this for some time. It's really, really important that we as the principal players in urban mobility are in the driving seat to influence the content and delivery. So I think it's really vital that we make clear our support for a roadmap which will support us in achieving our local ambitions of growing our economies, creating jobs, reducing congestion, cleaning our air and improving the health and well-being of our citizens. I'd like to come in on some of the amendments, but I'm going to leave my introduction there. Thank you.